Zootopia. Like all great cities, this urban jungle is home to every kind of personality and neighborhood. From Bunny Burrow to Tundra Town, and Sahara Square to the Rainforest District, Zootopia has something for everyone. But did you know, in early versions of the film, there used to be another hangout spot exclusively for predators? This secret destination was called Wild Times. And it was the big idea of this guy, Nick Wilde.
As we dove into the story of Zootopia, the question was, whose perspective do you tell this story from? You have two very strong characters. You have Nick Wilde, and you have very optimistic and driven Judy Hopps. And so for a long time, we were trying to tell the story through Nick's eyes. He's seen how dark the world can be, and he's had to learn how to deal with it through humor.
I know everybody, and I also know that somewhere there's a toy store missing its stuffed animal, so why don't you get back to your box?
At that time, Nick was the main character. He was the protagonist.
And it was a great way to get into the film. Here's a cynical character.
He shows us the city, and when he showed us the city, he was quite sarcastic.
That sound about right?
When we were telling the story through Nick's point of view, we had to make it clear that this divide between predator and prey was still a problem. Since the prey animals never quite let go of that fear that they had, they only felt safe if predators wore these things called tame collars. And tame collars was sort of like a dog shock collar.
If the predator would get too emotional, too angry, the tame collar would go off.
And we were playing it for humor in the beginning of the film.
It created sympathy for Nick.
In the earliest versions of Zootopia, it was actually Nick's tame collar that gave him his first inspiration for Wild Times.
We have a scene where Nick has to go to the doctor to get a checkup, and in the process of being examined, he has to take his collar off.
Hello, Mr. Wilde. I'm your vet, Dr. Armadillo. I understand you hurt your neck.
The doctor is not sure how Nick will react to the collar being taken off, and he's worried that Nick will be a savage beast like he thinks predators might be.
We're going to have to go ahead and temporarily remove your collar for the checkup. Have you ever had enough?
Nope, but I got my pants off, and we're all enjoying that.
The doctor has all these precautions.
Here we go.
A cage that's halfway lowering, a long stick that he's taking the collar off with, and the assistant is ready to let down the cage. There's emergency light. It's quite over the top, and of course nothing happens. It's just in the doctor's mind. Those collars, they get them when they're kids, so it's been forever that it's been taken off. So Nick realizes what a great feeling that is to have that collar taken off. And then we go into a dream sequence where Nick and his friends are running through a field and being free and happy and wild animals again. And then Nick gets the idea for this amusement park. As soon as the collar is back on, Nick is back in the doctor's office. And at that point, Nick realizes that if he could find a place where the predators could take the collars off and be themselves and do wild things without being zapped, he would find a big audience for that. And Nick realizes there's some money to be made.
Can you just give me 5 more seconds of this?
If I had $1 every time I heard that.
Yeah, you'd be the richest mammal in Zootopia.
Nick was a con man in that version of the story, and he felt like he had finally found a way for predators in that world to enjoy themselves. And it was kind of like borderline illegal, maybe a little bit. And that would be a secret playground for predators with all sorts of rides and attractions, and it was called Wild Times.
Okay, now this is a fun zone amusement park exclusively for Zootopia's largest untapped market, Preds.
Nick tries to get a loan by going to many banks around the city of Zootopia.
Run by different kinds of animals.
Yes, run all by prey animals.
You know, they say you can't put a price on happiness, and I say you can. Bang, there it is, $19.95 a ticket.
But you can't even appeal to the greed of the bankers because predators are not part of the system. They have no chance.
Will you help me make it happen? Will you help me make it happen? Will you help me make it happen? I get it. No one wants to throw money down a rat hole. By that, I meant no disrespect. They say you can't put a price on happiness. I say hogwash. What? Well, That was an unfortunate... Now, I don't want to beat a dead horse. I'm just going to leave. Oh.
Nick realizes there's nothing he can do. He went to all the banks in Zootopia, so he actually knows this guy called Kozlov. And Kozlov, being a predator, has made a business into lending money to other predators, and so he gives Nick the money.
With the financing in place, Nick is finally able to break ground on his theme park.
What Nick did is he bought this huge warehouse down by the docks and kind of blacked out all the windows.
There was a long search for the right style and shape of it. We knew it was going to be in a not-so-good part of town, something where Nick could afford the rent. We experimented with different shapes. In the beginning of the movie, we tried everything. Barn designs, for example, or like a big leaf, or something that looks like a tortoise shell. And then the location changed many times. We had it under a bridge. We were thinking maybe something on the water, like a casino. It was set on a pier for quite a while. And in the end, it actually was next to a factory, but it was linked to a parking lot through a secret passageway. If I was a predator in the world of Zootopia and I wanted to go to Wild Times, there has to be word of mouth because it's a secret place, like a speakeasy. So you find the parking lot. It looks like a regular parking lot on the outside. There is a tiny little building in the center which has a sign that says medical clinic. You go through there, there's a reception, you go into the main examining room, and that's where you meet Nick. He's got an online diploma, so he's got the right to take off your collar. He'll open a little secret passageway that's behind a medical poster, and you can slide down the slide and you end up under the parking lot in this place called Wild Times. Before you enter the big part of Wild Times where all the games are, you have to go to the collar check, and that's where Finnick and Clawhauser are working. Clawhauser used to be actually Nick's buddy, and he was helping him to set this up before he became the policeman that is in the final version. So the little guy, Finnick, is wearing a nurse costume, which looks really cute on him. And he's got this tag reader, and when you read the tag opens up, and then you pay the admission fee, and you're off to go. So the predator that comes into this environment will, first of all, be overwhelmed by all these different things going on around him. If he looks straight ahead, there's going to be a roller coaster, which is a roller coaster. It's so scary that there's animals roaring every time they ride it. You get dipped into water, and there's another loop, and of course everybody looks wet and crazy when their picture gets taken. Another fun ride for predators is the cheetah run, which goes all around the top of Wild Times. So it's fun in different levels. You can actually hide behind some fake wooden cutout grass, and the grass goes down, and off they go. The thing that all these games have in common is they're very low tech, because Nick had to build them himself. So there's no big motors or anything attached to it. So for example, the Catch Me If You Can game, where the animals are running, has a belt underneath. So the energy you get from these running animals on this one game propels the other game. I was always trying to find something that would be enjoyed especially by predatory animals. So there's a strongman, which is called Bite Me. This one is about biting strength. So it's this little otter holding a burger, and the top and the bottom of the burger are wood, and in the middle there's rubber, and so they bite down, and the little hat of the guy goes up. One of the setups that I thought was really funny was the scratch and sniff. We have these different big and small poles animals can scratch on. It actually made it in the movie in the naturalist sequence where you see the bears scratching on a palm tree. That palm tree was part of the scratch and sniff. We also have the nocturnal maze, which is a maze in the dark. Then there's the ball of yarn pit, which obviously is for cats that like to play with yarn. We've got the jump and stick game, which is basically you go onto a platform and there's a trampoline, and you jump onto the trampoline, and then you jump off the trampoline and you get stuck to this Velcro wall that is rotating. Another game we designed was laser tag. It works like this. There's animals with little laser guns, but because it's all self-made, it's actually a little hairdryer with a laser attached to it on the top, and they point. It's just like, you know, cats like to run after little dots. So one cat is moving it around, and the other cat is trying to catch the little laser dot. There's a Howl Along for the wolves. It's basically a little karaoke setup where there's a cardboard moon being lifted up, and then on the little TVs at the bottom, you see woo, 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 and the wolves are singing and howling along to that song. Then there's a little dancing game called So You Think You Can Prance, which of course you don't dance, but you prance, and there's steps on the screen that tell you where to go. There's a simple little game that's called Go Fish, where, you know, it's the buckets and you try to catch the fish coming out. Oh yeah, one of my favorite games is the Upstream. That's for bears. And again, it works without electricity. So you have a little booth and there's a log and the bear is running on the log. And behind him, the log turns a little shovel in the front that throws plastic salmon at him. So the game is to run on the log, catch the salmon, as many as you can, and not fall into the water. There's also snacks and merchandising you can buy in Wild Times. There's a clock you can buy. Everything is designed a little bit with straw roofs or with fake plants, so it looks like nature, basically, because you're supposed to be wild and free in it. And last but not least, there's the Tundra Express, which is at the opposite side of the roller coaster, and that is basically a gondola ride, but it's a flying fox, which is quite appropriate.
Created by the filmmakers to be the realization of Nick Wilde's boldest ambitions, the final version of Zootopia no longer had a place for Wild Times.
If you make a movie like Zootopia, until you get there, you make about 10 other movies. The whole concept of Wild Times was based around the fact that the animals can take off their tame collars. And tame collars just don't fit into the story anymore. Being able to talk about it makes me really excited that people are finally seeing all the thought that goes into it and get to experience Wild Times.
I loved Wild Times so much. That's one of the things I really regret that we lost. But somewhere, we got to find a way to bring that back. I don't know how we're going to do it, but you'll see. Somewhere it'll reappear.